The next interesting element that we have on the contact page is the form. Now, forms are very, very common in web design, whether they are forms to contact the site owner or download something, sign up for something, send some information. So it's very common and you'll be using it a lot. Webflow has their own native form solution. Sometimes that's enough, and sometimes you'll want to integrate to other systems that the client might be using, and we'll do that later in the course. For now, let's create a simple form that basically sends out information to the email of the client. So let's start out by just creating the contact page, and you'll see it's actually super similar to the about page. So I feel like we can just duplicate what we have here and just remove the background color, and that would basically do a lot of the work. So let me copy the section that we have on the about page, go to the contact page, and just paste that inside of the main and delete the empty section that we have, and just remove the style of background color teal. Fantastic. Double click the image, replace that, and I've already uploaded the assets for this page. And now we can just basically copy and paste this. So super quick. And we're getting into adding the form. So let's see, we've got this instead of this. Okay, and just to make sure I'm adding the form between these, I'm going to select the heading and then Command E to add an element between them. I'm going to write a form and edit. Now you will see I'm closing the settings, which is always available from the settings panel. In the form, basically I've just added a form block, but we do have all kinds of other form settings or options that we can add to customize our form. By default, we get a name and an email fields, and you can see that we actually have another field here. Let me undo that. We actually also have a message in here. So we can go ahead and see a text area, which is different from an input. This is just a one line, and text area is for multiple lines. And I can just drag it in here to add that. We'll change all the settings in a second. And this one comes without a label. You see that we do have fields, label fields here to tell you what this name of the field is. Actually, in the design itself, we don't have labels here. By the way, in web design, it is a good best practice to use form labels, because usually when you start typing something in the form field, the placeholder text that we have here disappears. So it is a best practice, but because this design doesn't have them, I'm just going to go ahead and delete the fields here, the text fields. And you can see that we can double click these text fields and add a placeholder. So I'm going to add your name here. I'm going to set this as required, which basically means the form will not submit without this. I'm also going to double click this on the email. And you see that this one is set as a type email, meaning Webflow is going to try to validate that they actually write a proper email there. Otherwise, it won't let them submit. And this is also required. Fantastic. Okay, so let's first style this to make it look like this, and then cover how to make sure that it actually works. So you can see that, let's see what we have here. We have the form block, and inside we've got a div that holds the form element, text fields, and the submit button. We also have two other things here, success message and error message, which are messages that are basically being shown once we click submit. And you can see if I click the form block, we do have on the right side here, we have state. So normal, we've got the success, and you can see now form is hidden and success message is showing. And then we also have error. So we'll be able to style these down the line, but first let's start by styling this form block. So I can go ahead and select the form. We actually have all of the utility classes, I think, to style this. We've got padding, small, to give this a little bit of a padding. We've got background color peach, and then we've got round corners. So as you can see, once you've got utility classes, styling, reusing your styling, and making sure your website is consistent, super fast. By the way, we forgot placeholder here, your email. And we also want to give these a little bit of a round corners, as you can see here. We actually have, how much of a round corners? Round corners of 8 pixels we've got here. So let's give this, let's call this form field, and then go down into border radius 8 pixels. I'm also going to add a little bit of a border bottom padding just to space them out a little bit. And then we can reapply this form field to this, and form field to this. And this submit button, double click, should actually say start a project or start project. You see, this is different from a normal button because we've got the button text and the waiting text, which is the text is going to change automatically once we click. It's going to say, please wait. And of course, you can change that as well. But I think we can just reapply our button class here, button primary, and that's going to look fantastic. All right, so we've got the form. It looks good. Let's make sure that it actually works. So let's head into the form settings and see what we've got here. First of all, we've covered the states, changing the different states. We've got the form name. And why does this matter? It matters because if you're going to start copying and pasting forms throughout your website, in case you have multiple forms, it's just going to say email form 2, email form 3, and you're never going to know when somebody submits something, which form is this, right? So make sure you always name this properly. And this one, let's call this contact page form. Now you can see we've got 3 form fields: name, plain text, email, and the last one is called field. We didn't give a name to this last field. And that is also important because when the client is going to get an email, he wants to know, what is this text, right? So this text, let's call this a message. So I selected this, and you can see here that this text area setting is name is field. Let's call this message. All right. And this is required. Yeah, let's also set this to required. Okay, so we've got our form fields here. Now this is the form submission. Who is this going to be sent to? Now, right now I am the site owner, so this is going to be sent to me and of course the email account that Webflow has that I'm using right now. But I can always add here some other emails like the client or some other people who are supposed to get this email in case I need to. So this is how I will set that up. Now I can, right now this form is being sent to Webflow, from Webflow and to Webflow. Webflow also collects the form submissions. Later down the line, we might be able to connect this or want to connect this to other services like MailChimp or HubSpot or the CRMs of clients. We'll get to this down the line. Now we've got a little bit more advanced settings here. Like, do you want to redirect? Like somebody submit this, maybe you want to send them to a thank you page or something like this, or yeah, just change what happens after they submit. So this is basically the form. I think what we can do right now is just go ahead and publish this just so that we can test this out and I can show you what happens when somebody submits the form. So let's open up our page. And let me do this. So this is run testing form and my email is blah, blah, blah. And you can see, by the way, that if I just write blah, 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 and this is my test message, you will see that Webflow knows that this is not a right email because this field is marked as email. It tells me, hey, this is not a real email. You have a mistake here. So let's write testing@gmail.com and start project. Please wait. This is being submitted. And then thank you, your submission has been received. This is ugly. We do need to go ahead and style this. Now let me jump right into my emails and see what we got. So here's the email that I got. You just got a form submission, Webflow form. You have a new submission from your site, and the name of the form is contact page. This is the site that we're using. So this is my site's name at the moment. And then submitted content, name, run testing, email, and message. So now you see why it's really important to give all of your fields their proper name just so that we can read out the format and understand what has been submitted. And with that, we have an active working form on our site.